Hey friends, how's it going? Recently I made a post on social media about the Turning Point USA halftime show with Kid Rock, and I talked about how that doesn't really support family values at all, especially when you're having a guy like Kid Rock sing on stage. And then I noticed that someone made a post on one of my many socials that I've lost my way. Derek, you've lost your way. I'm so disappointed in you. And I have heard that so many times before. And so let's talk about what that really means. When people tell me I've lost my way, what they really mean is I'm not saying what they want me to say. I'm not staying in my lane, the lane they assigned to me. These folks are like many folks that have heard me preach over the years. They only heard the parts that made them happy, the parts that comforted them, the parts that they agreed with. What that means is when the gospel or the good news confronts us, it suddenly feels like someone changed. I haven't lost my way. I'm still following Jesus. But the Jesus I follow is very different than the one that the GOP has. Uh, their Jesus is very different from the one I see in the scripture. The Jesus I follow is the one who confronted religious hypocrisy. The Jesus I follow is the one who defended the vulnerable. The Jesus I follow called out power when it harmed people, and he refused to bow down and baptize the empire. You see, sometimes people are really fine with grace until that grace includes folks they don't like. They're fine with morality until it applies to their own political tribe. And remember, I've called out Democrats and Republicans and libertarians. I've called them all out. You see, folks are fine with bold preaching until it steps on their own toes, until it names the idols they worship. I've spent decades studying Scripture. I began studying Scripture in my 20s, and now I'm in my 50s. I've gone to conservative evangelical Christian schools, and I've gone to middle of the road seminaries, and I've studied with progressives, I've studied with conservatives and fundamentalists. I've read scripture a lot. And my convictions didn't suddenly appear because of some social media post. I have even served churches across theological spectrums. My convictions have been forged in prayer, in pastoral care, in study, and in burying the dead and baptizing the living. The real question isn't whether I've lost my way. Maybe the question is whether or not some people mistook comfort for discipleship. If your version of faith cannot survive truth-telling, it wasn't faith, it's tribal loyalty. Look, we're living in a very difficult time in this country. It's a tough time financially for so many people, but it is also a tough time for personally for people who are immigrants, people who appear to be an immigrant, native-born Americans, naturalized citizens. All kinds of people are being abused at this time, and we have to speak up. We have to talk out, and we have to speak out against this performative junk that TPUSA is doing. I love calling them TPUSA, by the way, but we have to speak out against the stuff they're doing because it's performative, because it calls us to some sort of family values that have never really existed. And it highlights people that these same folks would have just 10 years, 15 years ago said weren't appropriate. When you've got somebody like Kid Rock out there supposedly speaking out for family values or Christian values. It's ridiculous. When you've got country singers getting up there and speaking out again and singing songs against trans kids as if they're going to be canceled. What? It's just pure silliness. It is incumbent upon clergy like myself. It is incumbent upon us all to speak out against these things. So, stand up, speak out, let your voices be heard, and let these folks know that these values that they're espousing aren't our values. Our values are rooted in loving our neighbor. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And who is my neighbor? There's a phrase we use in the South. It's a very simple one. Everybody. Everybody is your neighbor. But if you look at that story, the answer to who the neighbor is, the one who shows mercy. Will you be the good neighbor and show mercy? If so, then you're walking the path of Jesus. God bless. Hope you have a wonderful day.